Welcome again to I Want to Breathe Station. It's my pleasure to be here with you again and to have this opportunity to share with you. I'm Eric Smith, your host and founder of the station. I'd like to welcome uh, guest, the guest that was here last night and returning. A very special thanks to you. And I want to ask you all to, at the conclusion of this session, each time, if you would be so kind to leave a comment, state something you're feeling, what are you thinking, share a comment, and most of all, sign up so you can follow me, okay? So we can do this thing together, grow, journey, learning, and enjoying this whole process together. And so again, I want to thank you for this opportunity for such a time as this. Um, as you know, I created this station. It's an offspin to the recent death, the hands of police, particularly Mr. Floyd, as he was lying there dying and could not breathe, and mentioned it more than once that I cannot breathe. And so I was touched deeply by that experience and led me to create what is now called I Want to Breathe Station. And this is our second time airing. And again, we thank you, and please comment afterwards and sign up to follow along, if you would, please. As many of you know, uh, we're going to cover some subjects that deals with real life issues, such as a bad start in life, weaknesses. And we all have weaknesses. How do we deal with them? Yeah, you know, we all were not born with a golden spoon in our mouth, so we had some bad starts in life. So what do we do with it? How do we cope with that? What type of mechanisms have we developed to deal with things like that? Fear. We're going to deal with fear. And we all fear something, amen? And fear has been said to be a bully, and it can paralyze you. So we're going to look at that. Addiction. And it's not just drugs or alcohol, and those are the common ones that we like to think about when we say addiction, but there are many other things that people can become addicted to. Sex, perhaps, coffee, cigarettes, and the list goes on. So we're going to deal with those. These are life issues, and these life issues we find they can hinder us in life, okay? They can prevent us from growing and going forth in life. And so we want to deal with those. But I also want to point this out, and this is very critical here. With each breath that we take, there is an opportunity that we have to overcome whatever may have landed in our pathway. And God has given us that strength and power that comes from within us. We are more than conquerors through Christ Jesus, who has strengthened us. And no weapon formed against us will prosper. And we can do all things through Christ Jesus, who strengthened us. You don't have to look very far. Just look at our forefathers. We stand on the shoulders of our forefathers. What did they do? They had nothing. They had less than we have. But they were able to endure. They were able to pave the roads for us that we now travel upon. It was based on their faith. They walked by faith and not by sight. And so let us do the same. A brief recap of what we went over on our first station visit from the book From Crack to Clergy, which is I authored that in 2010, and the title of it again is From Crack to Clergy, Provoking Thoughts. And in this book, there are three stages that it actually deals with, even though it's a small book, but it deals with three stages of my life. Early childhood development, it deals with that. Addiction and recovery. And so those are the three areas that the book deals with. And in the midst of that, there are many poems. As I was going through my cleansing moment, if you will, I began to write down things that I was sensitive to and things that I observed and thought about deeply. And so in our last visit, we looked at to forget. We learned very quickly that in life we forget very early. Even a child, as being such, forgets they are in fact a child, and somehow seemingly they think they are the parent. We looked at number two, who can we trust? Very critical question that deserves an answer. Profound, simple question. Who can we trust? Who can you trust? And then the question was asked, can you even trust yourself? And then thirdly, we looked at, after looking around and I've observing things closely and seeing that I was filled with so many flaws and everyone else that I looked at were filled with so many flaws, and we're not perfect beings at all. And so I began to look for that which was perfect, that I may follow and get instructions from that which was flawless. And so that encouraged me to write about the perfect one. And we dealt with those three. To forget, who can you trust, and the perfect one. And so this evening we're going to deal with three more from my book entitled From Crack to Clergy, Provoking Thoughts. And for those who have not seen the cover of the book, I'll just display it now for you. From Crack to Clergy, Provoking Thoughts. And here is a print here of it. As you can see, on one side there is a church, okay, the hand holding the Bible. And parallel to that is a crack house with the hand holding a glass pipe and a sign that says, "Do not enter." And so we're going to look at three writings from the book, From Crack to Clergy, Provoking Thoughts. Love Them is one. Two is How to Love. And three is How Can I Prosper. Before I wrote about Love Them, the thoughts that entered my mind had to deal with my relationship with my ex-wife. During the time I was married, I didn't know it until after she was gone, and that's a tragedy. But she really loved me. She really cared for me. But she was no longer there. And I found that I failed to love as I should. But as I was looking at society has taught us that it's not good to show love or affection as a man. You know, little girls are taught one thing, little boys are taught something else. And so as a result, I failed to see the whole picture by that teachings and accepting that. And one day I realized after the fact that I had been loved, and that person who loved me was no longer around. And then I realized I had failed to love my wife as I should. And so this particular writing came into existence after my thinking of what I had failed to do in expressing to love, or not even knowing how to love, perhaps. So it's entitled Love Them. I have loved you. Why can't you love them? I have given to you. Why can't you give? Is giving to the rich giving. Love costs nothing, but yet it is priceless. Love is so plentiful, but yet so rare. Who wants love but doesn't have love to give? God is love, but you can't time God. So the same is true with love. There's only one worthy way to die, and that's for God. God is our all. It's great to be a puppet for God who can do no wrong. You're his and he's yours. When you can't stay away, you know then that you're on the righteous path. And that was entitled Love Them. Is it easy for you to love? Comes to mind. Can you love someone? Is it easy to love someone? Or is it difficult? Is it a strain? Is it too much work for you to love someone? Do you mind giving to someone that's in need? Or is it a difficult task for you? Did you know that love is plentiful, but yet so rare? God is love. Did you know that? To my Christian brothers and sisters, of course you knew that. Then are we to model ourselves after the Creator? And if so, then how are we doing? How would we measure our modeling activities or levels of emulating the Creator? The second piece that we're going to look at is entitled How to Love. How to love. As I began to think and observe and write, and remember now, this is all during the time that I'm going through a cleansing moment, if you will, from drugs, not using anymore. In fact, I've been clean since 1991. Amen. June of 1991, in fact. I've never looked back, and I thank God for causing me to surrender and delivering me. Sometimes in our lives, we think of a person all day, maybe, sometimes half a day. You know, sometimes we think we're in love. We want to see a person a lot. We love to touch them. We love to be with them, you know. We spend money on them, doing things, having fun, living life. But then we notice that we also do that for other people as well. So then the question should arise, and you ask yourself, do we love them or not? And so this is entitled How to Love. When is love coming? Where does love go? Why is love formed? Where does love end? Why is love needed? Why can't we control love? Is God love? Can it be to truly love is to first know God? As it is written, God is love. And so, do we know how to love? Have we been taught how to love? Where did you learn how to love at? Do they teach, are there any classes at high school level, junior high or college, undergrad work in how to love? Where did you learn how to love? Perhaps you learned from watching your parents exhibit love for one another, or perhaps on TV. How to love. And thirdly, the writing is how to prosper. How to prosper. I wrote this after having my eyes opened one day. I found myself lacking in so many areas, and a sense of urgency came upon me. A thought beats repeatedly in my head that said, how can I improve? Because there was so much I was lacking, I needed to know, how can I improve? How can I prosper? And so I wrote, no one heard me, I called not. No one delivered me, I sought not. No one fed me, I hungered not. No one guided me, I asked not. No one can truly prosper without being hungry, seeking, calling, and asking the Master, Lord God, for all. So are you hungry today? Do you have a strong desire for something today? And if so, what evidence do you have to show that you're working toward that which you say you so desire? That's a hell of a thought, isn't it? Well, as we prepare to conclude this segment, it's been wonderful and great, but I do want to leave you with something here from one of my heroes, Dr. Martin Luther King. A couple of his quotes is worth noting today, particularly in this current environment that we're in. You know, even though a lot of times pass, years and years, and you think that we're in a new era and a new world, a different time, but the more things seem like they're changing, the more they seem like they're more of the same. But anyway, this is what Dr. King said, and I quote, "I'm convinced," he says, "that the universe is under the control of a loving purpose, and that in the struggle for righteousness, man has a cosmic companionship. Behind the harsh appearance of the world, there is a benign power." And so King is admitting that he understands that there is a greater source of power that we can rely on in the universe. He believes that. Furthermore, he said, if we cannot understand and respect the lessons of our ancestors learned through hard struggle, then we are condemned to relive those same struggles over and over again. If history has taught us nothing else, it has taught us that. Of course, then, what he's saying is we should learn from our ancestors. Look at the ancestors. Look at our forefathers. What did they do when faced the same or similar situations? How did they overcome? What tools did they use? Was it their faith? How did they walk? By faith, by sight, or what? And if we fail to understand who our people are or where they've come from and understand our destiny based upon what our forefathers have had to go through, and we face the same elements today, then we're doomed to repeat them over and over again. He further states this, that knowledge of self is vital. Let me say that again. Knowledge of self is vital. And so we need to know about our heritage. We need to know about our heritage, which holds truth that can set us free. Any people, every people, nationality, whatever, needs to know their heritage. It's important to their very mere existence. King sought and fought for social change, for the betterment of God's people. He did what would give God's people power. Oh God, we need power today, don't we? Do the people today need any power or help? Do you need any power or help today? Do we need any help today? Are there any social changes needed today? Are there any social changes needed today? And if so, are we fighting for any changes? We know that there is a strong movement out there and it's working, and we need to support them. But what are you doing? King believed that truth crushed to the ground would rise again. King died at a very early age of 39, but he lived a life fuller than most people who had found longevity. That's right, age is just a number. You can pack a lot of things into some small numbers, I tell you. It's about the experience, the journey. King furthermore wrote this, and this is very powerful. Who are we? Who are we? Who do you say we are? King said, we are descendants of slaves. We are the heirs of a past rope, fire, and murder. I, for one, he says, am not ashamed of this past. My shame, he says, is for those who became so unhuman that they could inflict this torture upon us. What a statement. His shame, he said, was not because he came from descendants of a slave and the past rope and fire and murder, but his shame came for those that could inflict such harm upon a people. 4 million nearly liberated slaves found themselves with no bread to eat, no land to cultivate, no shelter to cover their heads. This was in 1863. The Negro was given abstract freedom expressed in luminous rhetoric. But in an agrarian economy, he was given no land to make liberation concrete, King said. And finally, King says, when your first name becomes nigger, your middle name becomes boy, however old you are, and your wife and your mother are never given the respected title Mrs. When you are harried by day and haunted by night by the fact that you are a Negro or nigger. When you are forever fighting a degenerating sense of nobodiness, then you will understand why we find it difficult to wait anymore. My people who are listening, it doesn't matter you're white, black, brown, or yellow. We have an obligation and a duty to do the work of the Lord, to do that which is right for our brothers and fellow man. We have a duty and obligation to this land, to this world, to God's people, to help one another, to love one another, and not sit back on the sideline and act as though we don't know what's going on. Because if we do, again, as we can see now, the problem does not go away. It will not vanish. It will not go away. We can keep turning our heads if we like. We can keep trying to ignore it. It gets worse until finally it explodes. And we can see some evidence of that occurring now throughout the land. But as I stated before, it's difficult to extract something that has been formulated, made, and mixed for over 400 years, just like baking a cake again. You put all the ingredients together and you bake it together. It's hard to, once it's risen and once it's become whole, it's hard to go and to dissect it and to rip it apart and to take out what you've been mixing for so many years. And here we find ourselves dealing with that now, the matter of racism. It's thick. It's embedded in this country for so many years that it has blinded so many people that they are more comfortable with trying to ignore it rather than to deal with reality. But we see the evidence of ignoring it, what it produces, more and more of the same. Let me leave you with this. The antidote, the remedy for hatred is love. Let us learn how to love on each other. And until next time, be good to yourself. Love you.